Welcome to Lawyers Who Learn, where we explore how attorneys' engagement and lifelong learning fuels their growth. Join us to uncover these journeys and gain insights for your legal career.
Marc, welcome to Lawyers Who Learn. Really excited to have a two-time returning faculty member of Lawline on the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Just to quickly go through your background, this will not encompass everything, but you started off as a banker and you then became, I think, a two-time, or this is your third time as an entrepreneur. You had two businesses you had started.
I really had three.
You had three. Okay. So there's three businesses, which we will go through. And then you moved into the world of LinkedIn, personal branding, understanding who you are, which I'm really interested to understand that transition and what drove that. And right now you help attorneys and professionals build their brand, especially on LinkedIn. I see there's two books you have that are right out there that I will mention: LinkedIn Marketing Techniques, and then You, Us, Them, which is hard to read the way it's set up. So
I'll tell you all about it. Don't hold me back.
Yeah. And then I'll just share the two courses that you have on Lawline, which I reviewed before this. One was professional branding, about getting business development through LinkedIn. And the second one was LinkedIn business development for legal professionals, which was just recently done. Yes. So there's a lot there. What I don't want to turn this into is a CLE course or any kind of course where you teach people how to do LinkedIn, because they can get the course to do that. So I'll try to steer us away.
Okay.
What I'd rather do is learn about you and what makes you tick, and how this is about growth and learning. You're not an attorney, but you work with attorneys. Let's just do a little bit, if you could, an overview of how you ended up where you are today from being a banker 25 years ago, just to level set us before we dive into deeper questions.
Sure. I was a banker a lot more than 25 years ago, just for the record.
You stopped being a banker.
A bank called Manufacturers Hanover Trust, which most people have never heard of. It was at that time the third largest bank in the country. It was a huge education for me. I was just a country kid from Virginia and didn't have anything under my belt about how the big city or big corporate works. Great experience for me. And found that I wanted to go and be in a branch. And we went to a branch in Chicago, which was fine, except I was the guy who was driving around lower Illinois and southern Indiana, which is not a place where they like to talk to New York bankers. So it was very tough. It was a hard sell. And that was fine. But I realized not so much the hard sell, because I can sell anything to anybody. It was the fact that I was selling money for the same price everybody else was selling money. We were just shaving a basis point off, or 1/16 of a percent.
So you were selling a commodity, essentially.
Yeah, and the interest rates were crazy. They were 25% at that point. That was nutty time.
Shut the front door. Was it literally that? I thought it was 15% was the high.
It went to 25%. And I was the guy who had to call all the corporate treasurers in our portfolio and say, I hate to tell you this, but the prime rate just went up to 25%, and they would just explode on me.
Can we pause that for a second?
Sure.
Because this was when Carter, thank you, was president. Because we're now like at 5%. Like when you see the rates now and people going crazy, like just from your background and experience, like what do you think about, like when you see the rates now when we're used to 0% to 2%? What's your experience tell you about the market that we're in based on where we were back then?
Well, I knew this back before, and I know this still now. The market is an artificial entity. It is created by policymakers to optimize whatever policy they're trying to ram through. It is a functionality that changes with the current. It's crazy. So I didn't like banking. It just wasn't me. And I decided, okay, I'll go to the other side of the desk. I'll talk to the bankers on behalf of a corporation in the corporate treasury. And that was a good move for me, because it got me out of my comfort zone.
Just to be clear, does that mean you were getting loans from them? Is that what you were?
I was negotiating loans and financial services from bankers who were coming to companies that I was in, like Cadbury, Pirelli, various companies. And this was a really good spot for me. I had direct contact with the head office.
Financial services meaning you have money, how to manage the money of the company.
Cash management, foreign exchange, all that sort of thing.
Got it. Okay.
All that stuff. And what I was realizing was I wasn't rising up the ladder in the speed in which I thought I should. And I started to just talk to people. I would go to conferences all the time, and I started networking before I even knew that was networking. I was just making myself known, hoping that they might remember me the next time a job came up and get me out of the situation I was in. I got pretty high up in various organizations. I finally got to AC Nielsen. I was VP and treasurer of the domestic and Latin American divisions. It was a very big position, but it was a toxic environment.
Okay.
And it wasn't good. I wasn't feeling good about myself. And then the company was sold. Great. I could cash out. I could walk away. And what am I going to do? I created my own company. What was happening at that point was that credit card processing was going to the internet, but in the most crude way, where you would put the headset from the phone into the coupler and it would make noise and it would transmit slowly and you'd lose it in between. It was ridiculous. As I look back, it was as crude could be. But I realized that there was an opportunity there. So I could call on any corporation and talk to them about credit card processing, but I realized that there was an avenue for me, and that's the book you see, the blue book behind me, You, Us, Them. I could talk to nonprofits who were just beginning to take online donations because the Red Cross was doing that after the various tsunamis and earthquakes and floods all over the world. Okay, long story. I decided I needed to work for myself because I wasn't going to...
Just to give you a second. So you, us, them, what I don't understand. What does that have to do with that?
Okay. I got a lot of experience working with nonprofit professionals and how they marketed themselves as individuals. And as I learned more and more about LinkedIn, which was the next point I wanted to make, I realized that when you talk to people in various industries, you have to talk to them in a language, in a way that they can identify with. They're not going out of their comfort zone. They are scared to death about talking about themselves. And I still see that in lawyers. I see that in finance. I see this everywhere. I see this in older executives. I see it in young people coming out of school. We were taught not to talk about ourselves. So having all the experience I had in nonprofit, I was able to go and twist the knowledge I had about LinkedIn and begin to market LinkedIn for nonprofit professionals.
What does you, us, them mean?
All right. You have to talk about yourself. You have to be amazinger, as I call it, on LinkedIn. Us, we all in the organization have to be amazing as well. And any one weak link in the chain weakens the entire organization. And them is everybody reading you about what makes you stand out. Why should I give you money versus anybody else? So you look great, we look great, us, and them. They need to see how great we are.
And this is what you learned from seeing great people in the nonprofit space. This is how they went out to the market.
Yeah, scared to death to talk about the things that made them proud. And there's a tremendous amount of turnover in nonprofits. And they were always looking for a job, like every year, year and a half. And they just weren't able to identify and market themselves.
And before, just as a side note, before we went on the air, it's a recording, I said, I love how you have your books in the background up there. And your response was?
If I don't talk about them, no one else is going to talk about them.
100%. And because most people would feel like it's embarrassing or bragging, or it's just like too salesy. And would this be an example of you? By putting your two books out there, is that part of when you say these are two things that represent you in a positive light, so you're going to put them there? Would that be help in that regard?
Yeah, basically. Why do you stand out? Why do you do what you do? Not what do you do? Anybody can talk about what.
But the Simon Sinek why.
Oh, absolutely. Huge influence on what I do.
Yeah.
So the first book was one of the top. It's in second edition now. The American Bar Association came to me and asked me to write a book on LinkedIn. And I said, nice that you asked. However, I don't only think that my audience is just attorneys, because I was running into lots of people trained in the law, but we're in finance, we're in development, we're in all sorts of other careers, even stand-up comics, and then I know that resonates with you, and all sorts of other things that they needed to talk about why they learned what they learned in law school, and why did that help them in whatever they're doing today. So the concept here, if I can just finish the thought.
Yeah, of course, I'll try not to interrupt too much.
No, you're doing fine. The concept is where you came from makes you all of who you are today. All the people you ever rubbed up against, all the people you ever worked with, they rubbed something off on you. You decided to embellish or utilize that in a way that you could use it for your own personality. But the present doesn't sit still, as we know very well how a fast change is proceeding right now. And this all came out of COVID. It's coming out of AI. So the past makes you present. The present indicates where you and your clients can go with you in their future. They're not buying you for yesterday. They're not buying you for today. They're buying you for the future.
Okay. So what you asked them, when was that published?
Yes, it was published.
When was it published?
2018, I'm going to say. It's still the only book on the market on LinkedIn techniques for nonprofit professionals. I don't know why no one else wrote it. It sells. I have people contacting me all the time because I understood nonprofit and the mentality they have.
So that I didn't realize that was geared towards nonprofit, but certainly the principles can apply to everybody, I would assume, in that.
Yeah, they do. But what I did was I added case studies, 4 different case studies in the book of actual nonprofits that were using LinkedIn in ways that were completely wonderful, and they had twisted the whole thing, and it was a great idea.
Got it. And just very quickly, just so I can understand how you got to this. So you were talking about you had the payments processing company. You started networking, and that's when you realized before networking, how do you bridge the gap between that and this today?
I'm still doing what I used to do. I'm just doing it better. I'm doing it with better tools every single day because each of the tools I use are continuously buffed up, are continuously changing. LinkedIn's changing constantly. I notice changes on it just about every day right now. So I am able to utilize my personal changes as my career changes, and it does frequently, in a way that I can express myself on LinkedIn so other people can read about me in what I put there.
But when did you start going from just doing it to saying, you know what, I'm going to start teaching people on some of the things that I'm learning for myself?
Interesting. The story there is a friend of mine in the nonprofit community said, oh, you've done some work for us on nonprofit. You seem to understand this stuff. You're a marketer as well as a salesperson, and there's a difference. How about if you come to our board meeting and present to the board? Okay, sure, happy to. And this was a nonprofit board. And so I saw her disappear in the back door while I was making my presentation and come back with this huge grin on her face. And she asked me to do it. I said, I do it for you. Happy to do it. No, I never discussed money. And she handed me an envelope at the end, and I went home on the train, opened the envelope on the train, and it was a sum of money I had never been paid for my LinkedIn yet. And I said, aha, good they paid you. You now have made it, and you now can create a market around yourself.
What year was this?
2009.
2009.
Like that.
I love that. To me is the best story, right? The market came to you and said you were doing this. At that time, were you running one of your businesses or you had sold it already?
No, I was still running 2 businesses, and I began to think.
Are you still running, besides, because your current company, Connect to Collaborate, is this, are you running another business as well?
I had another business. I've since sold it 2 years ago because there were too many emergencies with people's money. I can't do the fire drill that everybody said, I get paid, where's my money? I don't need that type of pressure. There are no LinkedIn emergencies, thank goodness. You can't screw it up. You can just do a bad job of it. That's all.
Got it. Okay. So this is, I'm sorry, the year when you started, that was your first, okay, you did that. Tell me, when did that evolve to, okay, let me actually try to get my own yes, people will come to me, but let me actually try to get somebody and pay them and have them pay me to speak. Like, how long did that take from?
I'm going to answer this the next morning after I went home on the train.
Because people who were there saw
No, even so, I started thinking, who else can I market myself to? If they're willing to pay me without my asking, I'm willing to ask them to pay me for what I think I'm worth. And I'm very pleased to say that my hourly rate has gone up considerably, as not for inflation, but for the value I bring. And I love it when clients say to me, "Oh my God, I didn't know you could do all this stuff on LinkedIn. I'm so amazed. Where did you learn all this stuff?" That's the best compliment I can get.
There's a lot of people who have knowledge and are trying in different areas, whether they're lawyers or in legal tech, and they do some things on the side, and they would love to be able to like teach more, right, and put it out there, but they're not sure how to do that. Even if they like found somebody and volunteered it, what did you learn in the process in the beginning to help you take ideas and turn it into an actual course that you were teaching? Like, how can I do that with some of the topics that I have? Because to me, that's the most, teaching is the best form of learning. So
Absolutely.
So if you could, and of course you teach at the University of Phoenix, I think, is that
I
correct?
did, yes.
So can you give us some tips to help if I want to turn my book into a course and put it out there? How did you go about that?
Okay. The best advice I can give anybody is something that I love to challenge myself with. I have no agenda. I have no slides. I get up in front of a dais and I say, "Ask me any question you have about LinkedIn." And do I fall on my face? Not anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I don't know, I'm honest enough with myself to say, "I don't know, but I'll get back to you tomorrow morning. I promise you." And I let everybody in the organization know, here's the answer that I didn't have. But I started doing that. I did that at the New York Public Library. I've done that at organizations. I've done this at corporations. I get paid for the knowledge in my head, not for the usual, how do I get the algorithm to like my posts? Because that's garbage as far as I'm concerned. And I know I'm against the grain on a lot of this stuff, but I have found that when I put a good post out there, and there's something else I want to talk to you about, not only is my profile good, but my posts are good. And if they read my posts and they don't know anything about me, then they refer to my profile. If they read my profile and they see that I'm posting, they read my posts. I have to be consistent in everything I do. Consistent, high quality, better than everybody else around me. And I compete with a lot of people in this space.
I love what you just said, because to get up there without slides is a clear showing that you know this knowledge really well. And because too often slides are a crutch that somebody uses, and as soon as you see the slides go up, people start zoning. Okay, first you go to the pro, and nobody wants to be lectured. They want to be talked to. Is that what is that your current way you do things, and then you have handouts, and then depending on what it is.
It depends upon the audience. If I go to a law firm, they don't want to just ask me questions. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's fine. So I have different presentations for a group of corporate litigators than I do for a bunch of marriage attorneys.
Yeah.
They just live in a different world from each other.
Yeah.
So I aim to the audience and try to find what makes them go. Eventually, all those questions I get back in an open forum
Sure.
like that begin to repeat. So I can tailor the answer better to the audience than just how to. I tell you why to, not what to, why to.
How did you end up in the niche for lawyers?
I made a presentation at enough either bar associations or law schools, and I had somebody contact the bar association, and they called me. They knew a woman who also was writing books for the bar association just to get a reference on me, and she introduced me to the bar at the bar association, and they said, "Do it." So what I did was, and this is where I was going before, they asked me to write a book for just for lawyers, and I said, "No, I can't do that, because there are so many lawyers that do so many things." They said, I said to them, "Would you be willing to make this for law professionals, broad, including paralegals and researchers and all that, as well as people who have a legal training?" And they said, "Yes, absolutely. That's a market, a niche that we've been looking to fill for a long time." I will tell you, that book still resonates. It still sells. I wrote it in a way that it made sense, not tied to what LinkedIn looked like at the time, but for the way LinkedIn was trying to help us tell our why.
And you said you recently updated that?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Did a second edition a few years ago.
But yeah, LinkedIn has completely in the past, since Microsoft bought them, in the past 5 years, they've transformed. When I use it really as a knowledge source of my industry, because I follow all the right people, and people post all the time now. Of course, AI has helped people post more, and but not in a bad way necessarily. It just helps simplify and structure. So I think you can see what an AI post is, because I will say this: whenever I do a post, I write it, then I put into Claude and I say,
There you go.
make me sound a little bit better.
Good.
Sometimes it goes too far, sometimes it doesn't. But I put my wife out of a job because she used to have to proofread everything I did. And, so now I don't. But let's dive into it a little bit, because I know in the Lawline courses that you taught, in both courses, you talk about know, feel, believe, do.
Yes.
And which is, I think, one of the core elements that you talk about. And so I do think it's worth, even though I said it to you beforehand, I didn't want to make this a course, but I think it's worth understanding what those principles are. And then maybe I can ask, my follow-up to that is, I really want to understand how you've learned all these things.
Okay.
Are you taking formal courses? Are you just doing, and things like that? So let's start with your framework that you share.
Let me flip the order, if you don't
Sure,
mind.
absolutely. Even better. Even better. Yeah.
I was in a networking group, one of my networking groups in New York City, and a woman made a presentation. I didn't know this, but she was also adjunct professor at Columbia Business School. And she gave a presentation on how to write public relation releases in a way that people will want to read them, because we get overwhelmed, inundated with these things. And the core of this was, what do you know that you want people to know in the public relation release? What do you feel that they don't know yet, so therefore they can't feel it yet, so they need to understand why it's important? What do you believe? And belief is very hard, because you're changing people in a way that they never thought they would be changed by what they know and what they now feel. And where's the call to action? What do? You have to tell people what to do next. So I went up to her at the end of the presentation and said, fantastic presentation. Can I borrow this? She said, yeah. I said, I'm just going to give it a LinkedIn patina. And she said, I never thought about that. Of course I did. So
what's the word you said? A LinkedIn what?
Patina. I gave it a shine of LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I said to her, if I post something about what I know that other people don't know, they're going to want to read me. And if I do it consistently and high quality, they're going to look at me as a reliable resource. And I want to be that reliable resource. That's easy. It's time consuming. It's hard to find new material. But in the way the world is changing right now, every field has something new coming out just about every single day.
Yeah.
So tap into what you want your clients, your potential clients, your colleagues to know. Be the first or amongst the first to recognize there's something people need to know that you now know. So the more they know from you, the more they'll feel that this is a change that's coming and they're ready for it. They're not caught flat-footed. So you give them an idea of what you're feeling and they should be feeling, because it's coming. And so you better wait for it. It's coming. Be ahead of that.
Yeah.
Once you tell them what they know, and once you tell them what you feel, like I said before, it's really hard to make the belief change, because we are stuck in our beliefs, whether they are old-fashioned or antiquated or just plain dead wrong in today's world, but we still like them because they're comfortable. And then finally, at the end of every single post, whether you talked about something you feel, something you believe, end with a call to action. Share this with 5 colleagues that you know who could benefit from this. What does that do? It makes you, the sharer, a good person. It makes me, that they're sharing, recognized as an authority, and they continue to read me. And this is what works. They have to be told to do something, because people are lazy and they just don't think right now.
I like that. And again, we were just talking about Claude and ChatGPT. Where I see that being useful is if you do a post and you feel like you haven't put it in that framework, you just have you've created a prompt that has that framework, and you say, okay, now transform this into that framework, and you can see what it looks like to do that and give you ideas. Because sometimes you can spend too much. That's for me what works sometimes, because spending too much energy trying to figure that out also can prevent people from writing. And my personal challenge is I do a LinkedIn post every single weekday. And the reason I do that is I learned it from Jerry Seinfeld. When early in his career, he was taught by a comedian that said, he's asking, how do I write good jokes? He's, instead of spending one day a month, the full day writing jokes, write a joke every single day, but never stop. and then you focus on never breaking the chain versus the joke itself. And I found when I try to, if I didn't do it consistently like that, I get overly concerned about the likes or the views. And when you have to do it every day, you're like, some will fail and some won't.
But you're doing it. That's what's different.
Yes, but I don't have a biz dev goal. I like to share and inspire and keep my name in front of people. I love that formula though. I think it's a great formula for people to give structure to their posts and just how they think about it in general. So thank you.
Part of that David, is to comment on other people's posts in a way that expands the conversation to new areas. Yeah. Now we're connected. I guarantee you're going to see me on your profile. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be commenting, and you can say to me, I disagree with you, and that's fine. Or you can say, I agree with you, and let's take the conversation a little further. And everybody you're connected to, everybody I'm connected to sees that.
Out of curiosity, when I connected with you, you went a step further and you had to give your email address. Is that because of all the spam that's out there? You're trying to prevent that?
Yeah. I had everybody wanted a piece of me. And really, frankly, there's a lot of bots out there that do that. And I stop the bots. I can't stop them. After we stop recording, I'll give you the email address you need. Okay.
No, I got it. I already have it. You're a faculty member. But that's my point. Let's talk about that, because I used to reach out to more people, and I do more of that. And I have 15,000 followers and connections. I stopped, and to my detriment sometimes, I stopped looking at those people who invite me to be their friends, because 9 out of 10 of them are sales. And what's your thoughts on how do you advise people to approach building their network and constantly looking and dealing with, okay, I have to go through 9 out of 10 who are not real people who want to connect with me. But if you're not constantly growing your network, you're talking to this.
First of all, connectivity on LinkedIn is a privilege. It is not a thing. It's not a commodity, to your point earlier. It has to be given respectfully, and it has to be earned earnestly. I don't connect to anybody just happens to come across. I don't let people into my house that just happen to come to my door. That's the metaphor I like to use. If they come to my door and they tell me what they want, and I see that there's something, I will ask them to give me more information, and we will get back together again another time. Same thing on LinkedIn. If they have something that I think is really interesting, or they're connected to somebody that I know very well, I'm finding out about that person through our mutual connection, because I just don't let anybody into my house. And if they tell me what they can do that resonates with me to help me, and I can help them, it's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street, then I'm more apt to give them a 15, 20-minute audience. And there are some times when I talk to people and I say, you know what, David, I'm sorry, I don't really see the connectivity here. I hope you won't mind. I'm being as professional as I can. Why should I connect with you and you'll never hear from me again? And people say, I never thought about that. That's amazing.
Here's two points to that. Number one, many people like me, and maybe you as well, I think, I have changed my profile to be like a content creator, which means you can follow me without having to connect with me. Are you the same? And do you
absolutely
do you follow people without connecting them?
I do follow.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. Like, if you think somebody's writing really good content, you don't need to quote unquote be a connection. Just follow them, just like you would follow anybody on social media.
That's right.
So how do you advise professionals? Do you advise them to switch their profile so people can follow them versus just connect with them? Because I know I had done that. Is that part of what people should be doing?
Some people will never produce the content they should, even if they say they will. So there's just an inertia in all that. It's a lot of work is to produce material every single day. I have 2,800 blog posts since I've been blogging. I stopped doing it every day. It was just eating up too much time. Now I do meaty video blog posts once a week on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. That has gotten me more connectivity than my daily piece on writing.
And you put those on LinkedIn?
I put them on LinkedIn. I put them on YouTube.
And you say blog, you're also putting them on a blog? Or you mean on the link?
Yeah, no, I've left them off the blog. I let the blog stop at a certain point.
Do you have a LinkedIn newsletter?
I have a LinkedIn newsletter. I only use the LinkedIn newsletter for posts that are too long for people to read because their attention spans are short. And if it's something that I want to really get under people's skin about, so they know something new or they feel or believe something new, I'm going to take my space to write about it on the newsletter. I don't get the thing about newsletters is really cool, and that is you don't have to be connected to somebody to read their newsletter. So I have people all over the world who read my newsletter. And I had one woman 6 years later from a piece I put out there from Iran who wrote to me and said, "We don't get to see material like this in my country. I really appreciate what you did." Talk about vindication. That is great.
And just to be clear, first of all, that's what's great about the newsletter because it stays, right? Post is hard to find once it's gone. Most people are not going through your profile and scrolling. Let me see what he posted a long time ago. What is the difference between a newsletter and an article in terms of when you would write an article on LinkedIn versus a newsletter?
Articles live within your newsletter. Your newsletter is like the masthead of a newspaper, and the articles are in the newsletter. The articles are long form. They're designed to be long form. You have more things you can do in an article in terms of adding video and graphics, and you can do bold and italic. You do all sorts of things.
Totally.
But
are you saying that
this?
And again, I always, from what because I know have some friends who really utilize newsletters a lot, and it actually gets emailed to me, even when they do that. But that is not an article. An article is just long form writing that actually you can post about.
What I suppose is happening here, David, is that you've gone to their profile, and in the top right corner, just in the first part of the white space, there's 3 little icons to get everything that they post, no matter where they post it or what they post on LinkedIn, to only get some things that the algorithm suggests you might be interested in, or not to get anything from them. I suppose you've got the first one for these people.
And I think it's changed over the years when newsletters first came out. Now it's more popular. So that brings me to my next question. How are you keeping up with all these changes on LinkedIn? Trial and error? What are you doing to continue to learn and grow yourself?
I am at the point in my LinkedIn coaching career where I am less interested in the changes than I am in the quality of what people put on their profile.
Okay.
And a lot of people disagree with me, and that's fine. And I do follow the changes through some other people who take the time to analyze it for this, and that's fine. I can read, and then if I have an idea for somebody, like somebody I worked with last week, I went back to him and I say, "Here's something new that just happened on LinkedIn. Maybe you want to look into it, and maybe you can use this some way." I don't tell them what to do. I want them to be creative enough to figure it out on their own.
Are most of your clients 101, right? Like they're just trying to update their profile? Do you have any clients who are what we call like experts and like you're helping them move to the next level? Like where are the stages where somebody would work with you?
Hard answer to give you. I am very fortunate that I meet people in various places in their career where they're stuck. Everybody's stuck from something. And if they're stuck because they're an executive and they've just lost their job, they need to get out on LinkedIn and talk about why they do what they do. And they just can't do that. So I do take on clients like that. I just took on a client, a 77-year-old gentleman who had 35 articles in various news magazines and art and newspapers all around the world in his peak of his career. And he wrote them into a book. So he came to me and said, "Hey, Mark, I see you've got 2 books. How do you market a book on LinkedIn?" Fine. I can teach you individually. But I love going into companies. I love going into firms. I love going into specialty areas within the firm and teaching all the litigation attorneys, or teaching, what was I saying before, all the marital attorneys, because they can't be taught top down, this is what you got to do, and this is what the firm wants to do. Because most of the time, the people who are marketing the firm are 24 and 25-year-old kids.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if that sounds obnoxious, but they know what they need to do, but they leave the attorneys hanging there not knowing what they can say and they can't say. And ethics comes into that all the time. So I know what they can and can't do. I can advise them, but I let them lead, the individual lead or the firm lead, and I answer the questions that they have to make it work for them.
And so if I can summarize, yes, the changes are important. If anything, big changes, you will keep track of it. But mainly that fundamentally, most people still need the basics, and they need their profile, their headline to make sure they're writing the right posts, and they need to figure out how to do it consistently, and they need help with that.
And you know why this happens? because they didn't learn this stuff in law school. So therefore it doesn't exist. To market themselves.
Yeah.
I have a real opinion on that because law schools do a very poor job of sending lawyers into the world understanding how to market themselves.
Well, and in fact, as you know, with Lawline, we can't even prove CLE credit for courses on marketing many times. So it is interesting. Where does consistency play into this? Because I talk about don't breaking the chain for myself. What is your advice when you work with attorneys? How often and how much time they should spend on their posts on a consistent basis?
Okay, step backwards. Consistency has to be that your posts reflect the same quality of material you write in your profile and vice versa. You can't have a mismatch because as soon as somebody reads the mismatch, buzzers go in their head and they say, I can't do this. I can't work with this person.
Okay.
But consistency is important. I always say there is no right amount of time or number of posts that you can do in a week. What you should do is post anytime you have something important to say. And you may go a week and you post 10 things because your field is popping. And then you let it sit for a week and you come back and you analyze what happened the 2 weeks before and you give another perception. People don't think about that. People think that they either could post once a month. I've seen people once every 6 months and they say, I don't get any ROI from LinkedIn. Of course not, because no one knows who the heck you are. There's no repeat quality being shown.
Okay. No, and look, and there's usually no magic answer, right? Never.
There's no
3
easy
times a week. And we're always searching for the magic answer to simplify, but it all depends on the situation. Switching topics.
Okay.
What does it mean that you're an airplane travel geek?
I am an airplane travel geek because I'll give you a story. I was coming home from Germany this past May, and I was on an Airbus A380, biggest airplane ever built in the world for passenger transportation. It's huge. I got a picture of a maintenance guy next to the engine, and he's this little tiny ant. You've got this big old engine. You only have 2 engines on this plane. It's a monster. So I went to the flight attendant and I said, I'm an airplane travel geek. Could I take a look at the upstairs of this plane? Which is
normally first class, right?
Yeah. And she said, I'm not really supposed to do this, but if you're really quiet, you can go up there and take a look around. No pictures and don't talk to anybody. And I was up there and I got to the point where I said, oh my God, I'm going to be up here too long because I'm just looking at everything. I love air travel. I have ever since I was a kid. I love airports. I love people in airports. I love to see reunions. I love to see people who are going someplace to expand their horizons in an educational and emotional way. It's fascinating. We're so lucky now that we can travel again.
Do you watch airplane videos?
A lot. I watch the bad landings. I watch the guy who's landing in St. Martin and he's coming in over the beach.
Do you know Voss Aviation?
Yeah.
So I'm, I guess, an airplane nut geek as well. First of all, when I was younger and as a kid, my parents used to say this is before it was like there was the internet. I would know every plane we would go on before we would go on. I'm like, do you know this is a 737 and has this many seats, whatever? Because it was like a lack of control and I needed to know what kind of plane we were on and where it was. And I love, like, I have a dream to be a pilot someday. I just don't want to kill myself doing it. But what I love about listening to these ATC communications, that is the height of professionalism when there's an issue and it has to be solved. And I think for anybody who's scared to fly, what I think is positive about listening to these things is how often like an engine goes out or there's an issue that they return, and 99.999% of the time, even when those things happen, they land safely. And so just hearing that helps if you're afraid of flying, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. The engineering of this monster plane that can lift off with just a couple of engines with all those bodies and all their luggage and all
insane.
It's fantastic. It makes me, my jaw hangs out whenever I think about that.
I think I read, or you talked about it in somewhere, Ikigai. Did you read that book, Ikigai?
Yes. I stumbled into Ikigai. The Toronto Sun ran an article not too long ago, and they have a really wonderful visual of it. And it's just really concentric circles, but it's so Japanese. It's so perfectly simple and so perfectly obvious that it took people thousands of years to figure it out. That is my goal in networking, so that you get to the circle, the pieces of the circle.
Can you explain just to somebody who doesn't know what Ikigai is? What
Ikigai is 4 concentric circles. It's what you believe and what you can bring to the table and what you think others need to know. It patterns a lot of what I was saying about know, feel, believe, but it is a graphic that shows how all of these 4 concentric circles come together in what I call the filet mignon in the middle there, which is the best part of it. And that is, why do you do what you do? And when I show attorneys this, or I show people who are stuck, they say, oh my God, I can't believe this. I've been looking for something like that. And it's so brilliantly simple that it cuts through all the garbage.
I was lucky enough last year to go to Japan with my family. And before I went, I just happened to coincidentally read the book Ikigai. And we were invited to go to a tea ceremony at someone's house. And it was so beautiful. And we went through the whole thing. And I said to her, I just recently read the book Ikigai and really meant a lot to me. And she looked at me and she almost cried. She goes, it was translated, just thank you so much for reading it. The tea ceremony is her Ikigai. And it just put it all into perspective. I'm like, oh, wow. It's not just this is what she lives and this is what it is. So it's another way of the Simon Sinek why in a different form. So I would definitely recommend reading and learning about that.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about other books in your career. One of the things that we're building on the site, we actually just launched it today, is I ask every guest what books have been impactful on them, what books they would recommend to others that they've read in any kind of topic. And sometimes people find their Kindle or they search for a book like I see you doing. And I would love to, if you can share 1 or 2, it would be great.
Okay. Start with Why. Written by Reid Hoffman with a guy named Ben Kenosha. Reid Hoffman is
what is it? The startup?
LinkedIn.
The startup of you.
Startup of you.
Okay.
And this is about, you're always in startup. You're always in beta. You're never a finished product. And I run into people all the time. People who have been lawyers for 50 years and they're still not happy with their lives and they decide to go do something different. Or they don't know what they want to do when they finally grow up because mom and dad were lawyers and therefore they became lawyers too. So this is a great book. This book is first edition. Second edition was written after the pandemic, even better than this book.
Amazing.
I've read this book 5 times.
I have not read it, so I can't wait to add that to my list.
It's very powerful. It's all about why you do what you do. It is a huge piece of what I do. It's Simon Sinek on steroids. Simon Sinek's great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
This takes it to the individual's mentality.
Love it.
How you need to really understand you're never done. You're always morphing. And you have to embrace the morph. And it's great. It's a great book. Love it.
You got another one for me?
I've got to start with Why up here. I've got my books. Yeah, those
doesn't have to. Like, what about like earlier in your career? Is there any books on mindset that you use, or I don't know? Was there a book that helped you become an entrepreneur? I know in different stages of your career, people listen to.
Yeah.
And if not, that was a good one. I just want to. I'm sure
there's a great book out there called "What Do You Say When You Talk to Yourself." Great book.
Wow.
Great book, because we're always talking to ourselves. We're always chattering in our head. And if you do it when we're sleeping, we do it when we're not even conscious of it. It's all about using what's going on in your head to your benefit instead of letting it take over your psychology. It's a great book.
I love that because we're usually if we talk to ourselves, if we talk to others the way we talk to ourselves, we would have no friends, at least for me.
Or clients. Clients. They'd be gone.
I'm so self-deprecating in my mind, unfortunately, but I've worked on it. But we're always, between imposter syndrome and self-deprecating self-talk, we all have work. It's a constant.
It's the imposter syndrome. I had a woman from the Philippines last week who said to me, I don't feel like I can really write about myself because I'm young and I don't know anything. I said, hello, you're wrong. Lots. That's why you just got hired for the company that hired me to train you on LinkedIn. So you know more than you're letting yourself know. You're not an imposter. They hired you for what you said made them say she's the one.
Totally. I don't think I've probably asked you yet a question that you've never been asked because they're all basic questions. So I'm going to push and ask you to think about, you do a lot of talks, you speak a lot, you're on a lot of podcasts. Is there any topic that you wish people would, when you think about your learning and growth journey, that you wish people would ask you about, or that you could talk about more that you actually don't really get to talk about? Because you talk about all the things that you know, but is there something that stands out that is something you've never really talked about as much as you want to?
Yeah, and it comes right to mind. Why do people drag themselves through the mud? Why do they not get out from under themselves? Why do they make themselves look worse than they really are? Why do people allow that to happen to them? Like we said earlier, if I don't talk about myself, no one's talking about me. So I have to have the very best soliloquy to give you about why me. Why do I do what I do? That's my elevator pitch. That's my LinkedIn headline underneath my name. That's you need to catch attention right away. People have to say, wow, where have you been all my life? And that's really hard to do because we don't give ourselves permission. We sat in the back of the classroom, and I bet you did as well as I did, and just slurped down all that information that the teacher was giving us, the clergy was giving us, our parents were giving us, and we were asked to regurgitate it onto a piece of paper. Is that learning? Is that going to make us better people? Absolutely not. So get out from under yourself. And I talk about this, and people come up to me later and they say, I saw you on your last presentation here. You said that. I started thinking about it. It really helped me. That's what I live for.
Yeah. No, why do you think that is? Why do you think people don't put their best foot forward more often than not?
Because it's scary to talk about yourself in a way that you want to be understood. You're too worried about what other people are seeing in you without giving them what you want them to see in you. It's really an amazing situation, and it's very hard. I had one woman, she had 3 PhDs in all sorts of scientific endeavors. She couldn't write about herself. Now, she wrote 3 amazing dissertations, and she couldn't talk about herself. I've had doctors who can't talk about themselves. I've had lawyers who are afraid to talk about themselves because they thought they were going to sound too out there. If you're a fun person, be fun. If you're a boring person, be funner. You can't mess it up. But if you're going to be boring, you're going to collect boring, and you're not going to get anywhere. You've got to give people a reason to latch onto you.
I think that's really, that resonates. And I think the other thing we just said also probably adds on top of that, your self-deprecating talk of between being afraid of what people will think of you and your own self-deprecating cost. You're like, you got to dig yourself out of a hole to start talking. And so and of course, the negative connotation we have of salespeople, right? Oh God, that guy is so full of himself or selling all the time. And that is tough that's a great point. As a professional, it is tough to transition the conversation from networking to like, so if you ever need an attorney, here's my card. Oh, he just wanted to talk to me because he wanted to sell me the whole time.
That's right.
It's a very hard transition, and you don't have to do that. You just have to be out there all the time. Certainly, I will tell you, the hardest part is asking for the sale, of course, which is a whole nother conversation.
Add to that, and Marcus Aurelius, a guy I went to high school with, he said,
I was like, I know who you're talking about, and that's funny. I like it. That's a dad joke. That's a dad joke.
That's a bad joke. You'll use it eventually.
No, I said a dad joke.
Yeah. He said something to the effect of, I don't have the slide in front of me, but look within, look deep, and you will ever let the good bubble up if you let it bubble up. But you have to let it.
Yeah.
It's there. You just have to try. And it hurts.
There's 2 words that help say who I am as an individual, and that's be curious. That, like, this podcast is my Ikigai.
Yep.
Talking to people like you and being able to have the privilege of somebody on the other side of this camera who has so many years experience, you taking your time, and you said your hourly rate is a significant amount, to just share this experience that you normally would teach, just because you want other people to see, one, you're putting your best foot forward, which is what you need to do, but really you want to teach and help inspire them. And so I love being curious by being able to weave through what you're saying, hear it, and try to find the points that other people would think about. So thank you for helping me do my Ikigai right now. I guess I'll leave on this last question. And if you have any questions, I'll feel free. But if you had to give a TED Talk today, what would the title of that TED Talk be?
It would be, why do you do what you do? It is just so central to what I am all about and what I've seen.
Say it one more time.
Why do you do what you do? How do you let people know your value in society, in the business, in the firm? How do you say that? And do you look at yourself from 30,000 feet up and say to yourself, wow, would I buy from Mark if I read his profile? And so I don't talk about me in my profile. I take quotes that other people have given me about things they've said about the work I've done, and I let that do the talking. And that's very effective. Now, there are ethics issues in the law about doing that sort of thing. You got to be careful. I don't have those ethics issues in what I do. I love aligning myself with great organizations, yourself and others. It makes me proud because I am a non-lawyer teaching lawyers who need to understand they need to learn to market themselves if they will only let it bubble up.
I'm inspired, Mark. I really am. I love your energy. You're in New York.
Connecticut.
Okay. I'm in New York. I will make sure to connect with you in person. I would love to.
Love it.
Stay off. When we stop, just stay there for 1 minute. I'll say goodbye. Thank you for watching this far. Whoever gotten to this far, I know you've gotten a ton of value. And Mark, thank you, and hope to see you in a future episode and as well as a Lawline course.
Thanks, David. And thank you very much for having me so many times on Lawline. It's a pleasure to work with you guys.
Pleasure is ours.